Spirit 1053 family. Erica here with you for the Thursday edition of our verse video. I'm so glad you're here today. I don't know about you, but I just feel like we are surrounded by giants in the world right now. I'll tell you a little story. Last night, within an hour, I found out that not only my mom was battling COVID, but my dad was battling COVID too. And my grandmother, who lives with my parents and is almost 90, is coughing. And she has a slight fever. And then I was on the phone with my husband, and we found out that his car broke down in an Arby's drive-through and had to be towed. And sometimes I just feel like you and I, especially here in 2020, we are surrounded by these big, huge problems and things. They're giants in our lives. We don't have a Goliath, but we have other issues that we are dealing with. And so that's why I'm so glad we are doing this series this week called Against All Odds, but with God, because it feels like the odds are stacked against us, but God is still with us. He never, ever, ever leaves us. Even when we can't feel him, he is still there. So will you join me today? Kind of in the beginning of the Bible. We're going to be in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter, let's see, do I have this right one? I think I turned it. Oh, okay. Chapter 17. Israel was at war with the Philistines. So we're going to enter here. The Philistines drew up their troops for battle. They deployed them at Soko in Judah and set up camp between Soko and Azekah at Ephes Dammim. Saul and the Israelites came together, camped at Oak Valley, and spread out their troops in battle readiness for the Philistines. The Philistines were on one hill, the Israelites on the opposing hill, with the valley between them. A giant nearly 10 feet tall. Can we just stop there for a second? I'm 4'11", so I'm just under 5 foot. So Goliath was twice as tall as me. It's like two Ericas. Holy cow. I can't even imagine what that would be like. So two Ericas makes one Goliath. How terrifying. He stepped out from the Philistine line into the open. Goliath from Gath. He had a bronze helmet on his head and was dressed in armor. 126 pounds of armor. That's a whole person. I mean, that's how heavy this giant's armor was. He wore bronze shin guards and carried a bronze sword. His spear was like a fence rail. The spear tip alone weighed over 15 pounds. His shield bearer walked ahead of him. Goliath stood there and called out to the Israelite troops, "Why bother using your whole army? Am I not Philistine enough for you? And you're all committed to Saul, aren't you? So pick your best fighter and pit him against me. If he gets the upper hand and kills me," he's probably going, "the Philistines will all become your slaves. But if I get the upper hand and kill him, you'll all become our slaves and serve us. I challenge the troops of Israel this day. Give me a man. Let us fight it out together." When Saul and his troops heard the Philistines' challenge, they were terrified and lost all hope. Okay, I don't know why I can't see your comments today, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know. We must be having an issue, but okay. Well, okay, maybe if I click on this. Oh, hi, Matt, Jennifer, Karen, Sally, and Mary. There you are. It's so good to see the family gathered together. I don't mind telling you that last night, I felt terrified and like I was losing hope. And I'm not going to lie to you, because I still kind of feel like that today. Knowing some of the dearest people on this whole planet to me are battling COVID scares me. Even though it's mostly mild, I'm still scared. And you know what? It's okay to be scared. God knew that you and I were going to be afraid. That's why he tells us over and over in this book, do not be afraid. I am with you. And so I chose this story today because I want you to know that you don't have to do any of this alone. Okay? So let's keep going, because I love this verse. Are you ready for this? Enter David. He was the son of Jesse, the Ephrathite from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse, the father of 8 sons, was himself too old to join Saul's army. Jesse's 3 older sons had followed Saul to war. The names of the 3 sons who had joined up with Saul were Eliab, the firstborn, next Abinadab, and third Shammah. David was the youngest son. While his three oldest brothers went to war with Saul, David went back and forth from attending Saul to tending his father's sheep in Bethlehem. Each morning and evening for 40 days, Goliath took his stand and made his speech. Come on, who's going to fight me? You ever feel like the enemy does that to you? Come on, you're going to believe God today? Look at everything falling apart in your life. God doesn't care about you. The enemy is like that giant Goliath hovering over you, challenging your faith. And we've got to stand up to him and put our dukes up like David did and know that we're not standing up to him alone. And I don't know if you can tell, but I am preaching to myself today. I am preaching to myself. I'm having a hard time. Okay. All right. So here we go. One day, Jesse told David, his son, take this sack of cracked wheat and these 10 loaves of bread and run them down to your brothers in the camp, and take these 10 wedges of cheese to the captain of their division. Check in on your brothers to see whether they are getting along all right, and let them know how they're doing. And let me know how they're doing. Saul and your brothers and all the Israelites in their war with the Philistines in the Oak Valley. David was up at the crack of dawn, and having arranged for someone to tend his flock, took the food and was on his way just as Jesse had directed him. He arrived at the camp just as the army was moving into battle formation, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines moved into position, facing each other, battle ready. David left his bundles of food in the care of a sentry, ran to the troops who were deployed, and greeted his brothers. While they were talking together, the Philistine champion, Goliath of Gath, stepped out from the front lines of the Philistines and gave his usual challenge. David heard him. The Israelites, to a man, fell back the moment they saw the giant, totally frightened. The talk among the troops was, have you ever seen anything like this? This man openly and defiantly challenging Israel? The man who kills the giant will have it made. The king will give him a huge reward, offer his daughter as a bride, and give his entire family a free ride. David, who was talking to the men standing around him, asked, what's in it for the man who kills that Philistine and gets rid of this ugly blot on Israel's honor? Who does he think he is anyway? This uncircumcised Philistine taunting the armies of God alive. We have an enemy who's taunting us today. He's taunting the armies of God alive. Don't you love how the Message version represents our God? He's alive. Woo! I'm telling you. They told him what everyone was saying about what the king would do for the man who killed the Philistine. Eliab, his older brother, heard David fraternizing with the men and lost his temper. What are you doing here? Why aren't you minding your own business, tending that scrawny flock of sheep? I know what you're up to. You've come down here to see the sights, hoping for a ringside seat at a bloody battle. I read this week that the first giant David had to slay was his brother's words. His brother was clearly provoking him and, making fun of him and kind of talking down to him. We have to face a lot of giants, don't we? What is it with you? Replied David. All I did was ask a question. Ignoring his brother, he turned to someone else, asked the same question, and got the same answer as before. The things David was saying were picked up and reported to Saul, the king. So Saul sent for him. Master, said David, don't give up hope. I'm ready to go and fight this Philistine. Saul answered David, you can't go and fight this Philistine. You're too young and inexperienced, and he's been at this fighting business since before you were born. David said, I've been a shepherd, tending sheep for my father. Whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I'd go after it, knock it down, and rescue the lamb. If it turned on me, I'd grab it by the throat, wring its neck, and kill it. Lion or bear, it made no difference. I killed it, and I'll do the same to this Philistine pig who is taunting the troops of God alive. God, who delivered me from the teeth of the lion and the claws of the bear, will deliver me from this Philistine. Man, I love David's heart. Saul said, go, and God help you. Then Saul outfitted David as a soldier in armor. He put his bronze helmet on his head and belted his sword on him over the armor. David tried to walk, but he could hardly budge. I just love that. David told Saul, I can't even move with all this stuff on me. I'm not used to this. And he took it all off. Then David took his shepherd's staff, selected 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the pocket of his shepherd's pack. With his sling in his hand, he approached Goliath. As the Philistine paced back and forth, his shield bearer in front of him, he noticed David. He took one look down on him and sneered, a mere boy, apple-cheeked and peach-fuzzed. The Philistine ridiculed David. Am I a dog that you come after me with a stick? And he cursed him by his gods. Come on, said the Philistine. I'll make you roadkill for the buzzards. I'll turn you into a tasty morsel for the field mice. David answered, you come at me with sword and spear and battle axe. I come at you in the name of the God of the angel armies, the God of Israel's troops, whom you curse and mock. This very day, God is handing you over to me. I'm about to kill you, cut off your head, and serve up your body and the bodies of your Philistine buddies to the crows and coyotes. The whole earth will know that there is an extraordinary God in Israel, and everyone gathered here will learn that God doesn't save by means of sword or spear. The battle belongs to God. He's handing you to us on a platter. That roused the Philistine, and he started toward David. David took off from the front line, running toward the Philistine. David reached into his pocket for a stone, slung it, and hit the Philistine hard in the forehead, embedding the stone deeply. The Philistine crashed face down in the dirt. That's how David beat the Philistine, with a sling and a stone. He hit him and he killed him. No sword for David. Welcome in, Kathy. I'm so glad you're here, Kristen. I got to tell you, I feel less hope than I've had in a long time, but I am clinging to my faith today during these hard times, and I'm inviting you to do the same, because I think what's going to happen is that God is going to show up. He is the God of the angel armies. David was prepared with 5 stones. God only needed 1 to get the job done. Whatever giant you are facing today, you are not alone in the fight. God is going to be with you. If it's a voice of doubt in your mind that you need to defeat, God will be with you. If there is an enemy that means you harm, God, he says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Don't try to get revenge. Put the sword down, pick up the stone of faith and say, God, I need you to help me defeat this giant in my life. The giants are big and they're real and we can't ignore them. They're unignorable. I just invented a word, but we have a God who says, I'm here. I'm right beside you. I will fight for you. And I just love this line when he says, David says, you come at me with sword and spear and battle axe, but I come at you in the name of the God of the angel armies, the God of Israel's troops. Whatever problem, whatever giant is in front of you, come at him in the name of the God of the angel armies. I have chills right now. We have a God who is alive and he is with us. Let's remember that today. Let's go slay, pray, and then slay. You